Hi, I'm Doug Reeves, and I'd like to talk to you about deep change leadership. One of the things that we know is the most challenging in education and in every other organization is change. Changing cultures, changing organizations, changing practices, all means that we're rejecting the past and embracing the future. But it's a lot more difficult than it sounds. Indeed, an analysis of change efforts over the last 50 years shows that the vast majority of change efforts fail. And that is because we have been using a failed model of change. Deep change leadership suggests a new 21st century model of change that will help every school, every district, every organization make change stick. Here's what we got to do. First, decide what's not going to change. Leaders are so fond of implementing new change, in fact, they love the term change agent, that they forget to stop and identify what will not change. You've got values, you've got traditions, you've got practices that are worthy of continuation. So before you launch your next new change effort, start by talking about what will not change. That will reassure your colleagues that you're not sweeping away everything. Let's also talk about the buy-in idea. For 50 years, we've been trying to say that the way change happens is first you get buy-in, preferably with an inspirational speaker in a dark auditorium, then people will implement the change, and then maybe someday we'll have evidence. That is completely discredited. In the book, Deep Change Leadership, I talk about the myth of buy-in. Because the truth is, when a leader tells me, I've got buy-in, Doug, from everybody, what they're really saying is one of two things. Either they're not asking for change, easy to have buy-in then, or the real objection to change is happening out in the parking lot outside of the earshot of the leader. When I say buy-in is a myth, what I mean is change happens by first having practices, then having evidence, and then there's buy-in. Expecting people to buy in without evidence is an illusion. And so I think it's a fundamentally more respectful conversation with your colleagues to be able to say, I know you don't buy in yet. You don't buy in until there's evidence. So let's give it a fair chance, implement the practice, get the evidence, and then, and only then, if there's evidence of impact in our school, with our students, with our culture, with our budget, with our schedule, with our bargaining agreement, then you'll have the evidence that says change really works. So don't start with buy-in, you end with buy-in. Then in the book we talk about the 4 stages of change. You imagine not only the great future that you have ahead of you, but you also imagine what will the future look like if we fail to change. Then we focus. The key to change is deciding what will not change and also deciding what we're going to stop doing. Friends, change is a zero-sum game. Everything you add, you've got to subtract something else. And if you're not clear about what you're going to stop doing, the perception that your colleagues will have is that every change effort is just one thing on top of another, on top of another. You can't add anything new unless you're willing to be clear about what you will stop doing. Then we'll implementing with very clear guidelines so that we know that we're making progress week by week, month by month. And finally, accelerating the pace of change. You will be able to accelerate if and only if you follow the previous steps of imagining what the future is going to be with and without change, of focusing on fewer things by eliminating some things that need to stop before the change happens, then with thoughtful, deliberate, milestone-based implementation, and then we'll continue this process of acceleration. One more thing, you can't do it alone. Deep change happens when we have deep change leadership at every level, and that means teachers, parents, community members, cabinet officers, board members, all committed to deep change leadership. So from you as an individual leader, all the way through community-based change, that's the sort of thing that will not only implement but sustain the change you want to have